Welcome back, CNG 132 to week 9. This is our second to the last week. Um, from this week, let's see, we have just next week left, and actually just a little bit more than next week. If you open your calendars, you'll see that our last day is actually the 8th. So if I click here and show you, or it is the 6th, it's the 6th. Our last day is actually the 6th, so we do have a couple extra days there just in case you don't have homework in. Now, this is the important part. If you don't have, say you're missing an assignment, I'm going to start going through and putting in zeros for the assignments that are not turned in. So if you do have an A and you're missing a few assignments, and say those assignments are labs, make sure you get those labs in, because that's 40% of your grade, and a 0 of 40% will bring you down substantially really fast. I'm sorry, I got distracted there. Having a 0 in that 40% will bring you down very, very quickly. But on the upside of that, doing the work for that 40% will bring you back up to a grade very, very substantially, or very, very quickly. As we found out last week in Chapter 11, when we guys started cracking passwords, it doesn't take a lot of time. And if the password is simple, I think password and password 123 were tried. You got those pretty darn quick. And then when you went to the longer passwords, they did take more time, but they were still either the front end or the back end, and this is where the computers, the programming breaks your password in half and tries to crack half your password in order to get the other half of the password going. Password. Let me bring this up on this other screen. Password checker. Password checker strength. Here is a here's a site. How secure is my password? And if we do the same, password 123. I said, hey, it take 41 years. Password instantly, 41 years. I don't know about the 41 years. I think in our display we got that, or you should have got either the whole thing or half the thing. Once again, that's password 123. Try a variation of your password on these sites. Some of them, they might, I don't know, I cannot guarantee their authenticity, so I wouldn't enter your real password. I'd enter a variation of it. Maybe you switch out a letter for an @ sign. There's one of the passwords that I did not, well, I stopped using this one, but as you can see, a little bit more secure. We can go back and let me check another one. Passwordometer, same thing. Enter a variation password, and here is a score 26%. If we had 1, 2, 3, 75% saying it's still strong. But once again, we know that these are really not strong at all. Entering my old password, very strong, 83%. So you see this is slightly better than my other one. But all variations, all variations. Let's see, what else we cover? Week 12. Access management, looking at all the users. Making sure that people, objects, computers, routers, firewall switches are all in their purposely full group. Allows user access management, access control list, ACLs. You'll see that start to pop up a lot, and basically it's referring back to this specific chapter. So once again, as you progress further, feel free to check those out just a little bit more. One more thing I want to show you. Let me see if I can get it there were some questions about not being able to find files on your computer. So this is what I have. Oops, so I can drag it. This is what I have started to collect. Each class I teach, has its own little CNG file. Has its own little CNG folder. Every class that I've taken, as I worked in undergrad, has its own little folder. Every course that I've taken in graduate school has its own little folder, and then also, my philosophy courses, web, programming, communication. This helps you, math, this helps you locate your files more quickly. And if you look at that, that's really just in OneDrive. Helps you locate your files a lot more quickly, because you save the file in this location specifically, not just in C drive, downloads, and whatnot. So maybe from here on out, or if you want to go back, feel free to do it. Start downloading content, start downloading labs or projects, and putting them in this specific file, because then you'll be able to go back and say, you know what, I think in CNG 132 I talked about this. Let me go back and revisit that site, or revisit that file, and get refreshed on this. So then when you go into, and security relates to so many levels, Windows operating system, Windows Server, Linux. I can just say Linux because Linux can be server or client. But then you go back to access control lists, and you see, users, groups, and owners. Let's see, for this week, we jump into chapter 13-14, vulnerability. I think it's vulnerability and penetration testing, vulnerability assessment. But we start to conclude our book and wrap all the things we've been studying and learning, just at a very once again superficial layer. You barely scratch the surface in this class. So I encourage you, if you enjoy networking, and if you're going for cybersecurity, or even going on to information assurance, see how it all ties together. Visualize how it all ties together on the end. Yeah, vulnerability scanning and penetration testing. 2 parts. Vulnerability scanning, you're doing from the inside of your organization and scanning everything around you. What open ports do you have on the inside? Penetration testing, more on the outside of your organization, trying to get in. I do know one app that does not work in chapter 13, so you will have to look for an alternative to it. But once again, just look at what it's trying to do, and then in the lab itself, Google the title of the lab, and you will be able to get that. Security posture of an enterprise, very, very important nowadays. I should say it's always been important, but now it's on the forefront. As companies start to lose money, of course is cutting the profits. That's why organizations are trying to derive a more coverage, a stance that is more not reactive but proactive in their security. Let's see, chapter 14. Business continuity. So when you look at business continuity, you're going to be looking at disaster, DRPs, disaster recovery protocols. So say there's a power outage, or say there's just basically a threat, whether it's man-made or natural disaster. The business continuity plan is going to list steps on how to keep the business running when there is an outage. Say the server is down, say there's no power, any sort of, say there's an attack, a cybersecurity attack. The DRP and the DCP will list out specific methods and protocols, processes that will guide you through this power outage. It's going to be a document that is reviewed, updated continuously. There will be a team, so when a disaster happens, the response team will take into account what happens from there. Business continuity does have other parts. When we start to look at it, cybersecurity, chain of custody. There's also other methods that go along with the business continuity. But once again, wrapping everything we've learned up and compiling it into many different forms. And this is how it all works together. Very, very, very interesting chapter. Getting kind of close here. So recap. If you have any outstanding assignments, especially projects, make sure to get them in. I'll start entering zeros in the gradebook, preparing for the last week of class. Remember that we do have those additional 2 days of class. So if you're missing any work, please reach out. Email me. You can text message me here at the top button with message alerts. Get a hold of me because I want you to get the grade that you want walking away from this class.